Hey guys, Andrew Dowling here, back for another episode of the Altmed podcast with my co-host Mitch Kurtz.
Hello.
How we doing, Mitch?
Oh yeah, sprightly.
Looking fresh, had a shave, well done. And we have a very special guest. It's been a while since we've had a nurse on, actually.
We haven't had a nurse on, actually, Andrew, I don't think.
I thought you did a bit of nursing part-time, Mitch. I'm trying to claim
well,
that.
Then it hasn't been very long since.
Okay, all right, fair point. Anyway, it is our inaugural nursing guest. It is the general manager and nurse from Medicann Clinics, Jennifer Smart. Jenny, thanks so much for joining us. And do you go by any other names by any chance?
My friends call me GM Jenny or Jenny 420.
420, love it.
We do like the 420 reference, but obviously, what we do like to do is start by having our guests introduce themselves and tell us a little bit about their journey to date. How did you become a nurse? How did you get into medical cannabis? So please enlighten our lovely listeners.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Thanks for having me. So I am from Perth and I work at Medicann Clinics and I have for about 2 years, but I've been a nurse now for over 20 years. And I've worked in so many different areas. I've even worked in London as well for the last, for 5 years. I've been back for many years now, but many different areas. How I became a medicinal cannabis nurse. So this is a really big question for me because I've obviously been through my own journey, or my family and friends know this. And I've had my own experience. And I feel like many others have that work or are part of this industry have also gone through this themselves as well and know somebody that have gone through this as well. So I don't mind sharing my story. I'm a chronic headache and migraine sufferer, and I have been since I was a teenager, and they progressively got worse through my 20s and 30s. I was prescribed multiple pharmaceutical medications. I was under GPs and specialists. And then I started venturing out to alternative therapies and natural medicines. But it wasn't until my very good friend from America said to me, you should try CBD. And I was like, what is CBD? I had no idea. This was 3 years ago. So I'm still relatively new, I feel, to this industry. And I quickly learned that it was from the cannabis plant. And and then I went down the rabbit hole and just started doing heaps and heaps of research. Obviously started taking the CBD. I had nothing to lose, so started taking it. And I kept a journal as well. Anything I tried new, because I was trying acupuncture, I was trying everything. I'd keep a little journal. And it was about the 6-week mark that I started noticing some changes from this random oil that I had from America, and thought, what is this? So kept doing some research and started reaching out to anybody that I could find in Australia and found I could get this legally. And that's how I found my boss from Medicann. And I don't know how the conversation went, but it went something like, if you ever need a nurse, I will start a clinic with you. Or it was something like, I want a job at Medicann Clinics. So I decided to go to my GP as well and tell her what I was doing. And it was about 3 months that I started feeling really good. Sleep was good, headaches were well controlled, and I wanted to come off my medications because I was on about 4 different medications, which a lot of patients say to me, when they come to our clinic, I'm on so many medications, I want to be weaned off them. So started weaning off my medications, and it was about the 5-month mark after I had started medicinal cannabis that I knew that this is exactly what I wanted to be an advocate for. So that's when I reached out to Matt and we started at Medicann Clinics.
Yeah, so
well, that's exactly how I got here.
Yeah, wow. So that's amazing. I mean, that's such a unfortunately common story that people don't really know about it, but they're suffering from XYZ ailments, and then they try it, and then it becomes a passionate thing that they've become, an evangelist for, if we will. And they're just like, they're telling everybody, you've got to try this. And it becomes, it's a little bit, it can be a bit culty at times. Some people describe because it seems it almost seems unfathomable that a certain compound or drug or this plant can affect so many different indications at the same time. It's like, well, you've got this, you got Parkinson's, epilepsy, you've got chronic pain, try this plant. It's like, well, bullshit, it can work for all those things. And it's like, well, actually it has because the way it interacts, such a far-reaching potential. So I was just I'm curious, you've obviously got experience as a nurse. How does the cannabis space differ to just be, I don't want to say regular nurse work, but some of the other stuff that you've done in the past, let's say?
Yeah. So there is lots of differences, but there's also like lots of similarities as well. I mean, I've been a nurse a long time, and the main similarities, I think, is that nurses are more than just one thing. We multitask. We do so many different things, and we look after patients physically, mentally, emotionally. So the concept of nursing is always the same in areas, but in cannabis, it's very specialized, obviously. And the main difference is that we use this one amazing plant to treat a variety of health issues, like you said before. So I just absolutely love that. There's just this one amazing plant. And yes, a lot of people say that it's just another tool in your toolbox, medicinal cannabis is, but we treat the patient holistically and we follow them through their journey.
That's great.
But one of the biggest things I've noticed is that everybody in this industry genuinely, authentically wants to be here. We all just absolutely love it. I don't know I know we've all just been to this symposium together, and I could just really feel it. I had a nurses' day on the Friday, and there was just so much compassion in that room, and we all just genuinely wanted to be there, and we believe in medicinal cannabis so much.
So you're saying that kind of takes it from maybe, potentially, and I don't want to single out anybody in particular, but like you might know some people that go to work as a nurse and they're like, it's a job, right? As opposed to something that they're truly passionate about, and turning up to work is maybe a little bit different because you believe in the cause type of thing. Is that what you...
Absolutely. And don't get me wrong, I've had some great jobs in the past, but nothing like this. And I did years and years of night shifts, and I did it because the money was really good. And I liked my job, so I didn't mind going to work, but it was night shifts. God, I didn't particularly want to be there at 3 o'clock in the morning wondering what I'm doing with my life. And you're right. There's lots of areas that are really good, and nurses are very, very good. I don't know what we'd do without nurses, really.
I think that all the time.
We do everything. People always ask me, what do you do? What do nurses do? I'm like, everything. We really do.
What, you're saying that doctors don't do everything?
Oh, nah, they don't. They just write the scripts. Nah.
I am curious, the fact that you're doing so much and you're dealing really at the coalface with the patients on a day-to-day basis, what are the most common types of questions that patients ask? What are the main key drivers and things they're interested in?
Good question. I've actually just got off the phone to someone now. It's a question that gets asked me every single day. Is, will this show up in a drug test? Seriously, I get it asked every day. Will it be shown up if I'm driving? What about work? So they're two different things, obviously. So we have to be honest with our patients and say, listen, THC is illegal. It's illegal to drive with THC in your system. We're huge advocates. We will do anything we can to give you documents and anything to support you that you are on legal medicinal cannabis. But we just have to continuously tell patients to be mindful and to be smart, and don't drive if you feel like you're under the influence. Make sure you carry your scripts and your documentation, and don't have your medications and jump straight in the car. And especially with work as well. Just literally got off the phone to someone and I said, be smart about this. Go and speak to your HR department, speak to your manager, and make sure that you declare this, because you may lose your job if you don't. So
that's really interesting. Yeah, because I get the sense as well that, I don't know what the situation's like over in WA, but it's of course, all of those factors, are really important. But I have to be honest, I don't see very many, drug enforcement activities on the roads, at least here in Victoria. Is it something that you commonly see around, Perth, where you live? Are there people constantly getting pulled over there, or?
Not as much as I thought,
Hmm.
actually.
Yeah.
We've had it, I won't go too much into it because it is private and confidential, but we do have a couple of patients that are going through this at the moment. They have been tested positive,
Yeah.
but there has been some good outcomes so far. I can't promise that for everybody, but there is good outcomes so far because we have the right documentation.
Yeah.
And I say this to the other staff members, I kind of want it to happen to me. I want to be pulled over. I wanted me to go through the experience so I can tell patients there's nothing to worry about.
Yeah.
That's the type of empathy that you only really get from a nurse, to be
Yeah, I
honest.
agree.
So
I agree. But you could be the, the precedent case that, you keep getting told, no, you're going to have to take a fine or lose your license.
Yeah.
And just appeal to the High Court, and then suddenly it's the Jenny
would love that.
precedent. I love
Don't
it.
get me wrong. I would absolutely love Andrew to go through that. That would be brilliant. but myself, I'm not as empathetic as you. No.
That's because I thought you were a nurse about 15 minutes ago. But
Well, I just like to get all legal on it and actually take it to the High Court because you get to represent yourself. That'd be fun.
That'd be faster.
Yeah, I'm surprised we haven't seen more cases, to be honest. I mean, we've got nearly 2,000 patients.
Yeah.
I'm so shocked that there's not more. I must say that I have been drug swab tested once in Victoria, and it didn't come up. So
yeah. That's great.
I mean, it's not going to happen for everybody, but
yeah, I love those undetectable strains.
How did you hide the fact that you just smoked 10 bongs?
I wore some big black sunglasses.
Okay.
Yeah, nice. I actually have a question, just because, obviously, the clinic's been a booming success. That's obviously a lot of patients that you guys are looking after. I mean, just on a different front to the driving implications for taking medical cannabis. I know some people report that they're a little bit embarrassed about the fact that they need this medication, and that if, for example, their workplace had a strict drug policy, I mean, in your state, I'm thinking of mining companies or whatever, and people sometimes randomly get checked. Do you have patients that, report this kind of fear that they have of having to hide their medicine? What's, from their employer, and what's your sort of views on all of that?
Yeah, all the time. We have people that are scared and embarrassed to talk about it, even with friends, and family. It's about breaking the stigma. And like I mentioned before, I only knew about this 3 years ago, and I had to break my own stigma. I mean, obviously I dabbled myself as, pass a joint around here and there, whatever, through your 20s and 30s. But I had to break my own stigma as well. And I'm sure people in their 50s and 60s do as well. So you're right. There is people that are embarrassed and don't want to talk about it with work colleagues. But that's another thing that nurses do. We educate and we help them, and we tell them to be activists and to stand up, and it's working. And the more the word gets around, the more it's just going to be another medication.
You're seeing that now, like, with the legalized cannabis party. I think it's going very, very mainstream. We're seeing adult use in North America. We're seeing adult use being trialed in Western Europe. We even had that referendum, was it plebiscite referendum in New Zealand, which was very, very close. I think as potentially that older generation that still sees it as hippie Woodstock kind of stoner culture moves on, I think it'll be embraced more globally by the younger generations. That's the feeling. Like, I know that if I go to a park and I get that smell, like, what's that? That's definitely, that's the old devil's lettuce over there. It's something that, me and my friends, at least, are all just like, yeah, whatever kind of thing. So, yeah, I do see that changing currently and into the future for sure.
But I think you're right about this idea of breaking one's own stigma. Because I must admit, if I walked into a workplace and I saw somebody vaping a flower, like, that's a prescription medication. And I guess to the extent that, let's say, for example, it's high CBD, but that's unbeknownst to me, the casual passerby, I look at that and I go, wow, that person's about to be impaired. Why are they doing that in their workplace? They're not going to be able to actually do their job, and that's.
Would you say that to endone? Would you say that to something like somebody taking, high painkillers at work?
Well, exactly. I think we have underneath the surface, possibly all of us, we're still all shedding our own stigma, even when we're working in the industry.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's not very often someone, says, oh, you're on endone, or you're on benzos. It's usually, oh, you're on, oh, okay, you've got bad pain, oh, you're taking prescription. It's, the other way with cannabis. Oh God, you're taking cannabis.
I think my take on it is how you interpret that person as either using it recreationally or using it medicinally. So, if somebody was having, say, an epileptic seizure in front of you and then they started taking cannabis and it was in the workplace, I don't think you'd think twice about it, Andrew, right? But if somebody just bust out a Jozzo in the middle of the day at the law firm that you're at.
Yes. Is the flower packed inside that Jozzo prescription, and did the doctor recommend that was the appropriate method of administration?
Even if it is medicinal, but there's still this interpretation that even if it's medicinal, some people use it in the wrong way occasionally. And I think people jump to that conclusion with cannabis a bit more readily, let's say, than others. But if you heard that somebody was using Xanax recreationally, you'd still think, oh, that's a, do you know what I mean? I feel like you'd still have a stigma.
I reckon we know we've hit a good spot when you see like a police man or woman on duty and they just, have a vape. And it's like, well, that's to help them with whatever medical condition they're dealing with.
That would be great. We've actually got 2 police officers as patients.
Yeah.
I don't know if I should say that, but we do.
So much.
Well,
I assume.
We actually had a police officer retired police officer, and we broke his stigma and we got him on medicinal cannabis.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
After being off for 50 years.
Wow.
50 years cover, and got him onto medicinal cannabis. So,
well, I mean, one day
change anybody.
Totally.
Yeah, 100%. Start with the policies and then move through all the other services.
I had to break my parents' stigma. They are the cutest little old, I shouldn't say old, should I? Older parents from England, and I don't know what they think of me and what I do, but they know I'm helping people. So
that's great.
Yeah.
Have you got any patients that are judges by any chance? No, I shouldn't ask. Anyway,
I do actually.
That is hilarious.
In the high courts, I think. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. We've really got a bit of everybody. Hey, we've got kids. We've got we've got some oldies that think this is hilarious because it's hippie. We do really see a big variety of patients.
I feel like one day it could be, I mean, just going back to, talking about in the workplace, Andrew, it's if you went for lunch and had a beer, that's not really frowned upon, is it? In your idea? Like, well, if you went out.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I mean, you're right. So to the extent that it's in moderation, that's fine. Although that is still a kind of sanctioned recreational activity, I think that's different to somebody taking their medicine at work. That's different to somebody, popping open the drawer next to their desk and pulling out a couple of Nurofen for a headache or something.
If it was legalized here in Australia, that would be feasible to understand. You go on a smoko, but smoko includes a joint, you know what I mean? Kind of thing. So, and then all of a sudden you got no leg to stand on. You could just do that at work, right?
The thought of tradies having joints during a smoker, I mean, they already charge a lot. I mean, it just, your budgets for home renos are going to go to double. It's just crazy.
Well, speaking about that, just speaking about, joints and bongs and vapes and the rest, what types of products do you see, Jenny, coming through the clinic? Like what are patients gravitating towards? We started off in an oil market. It's moved heavily more into flower. What do you see being at, right at the front line?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, oils and flowers. So mainly high dominant, full spectrum CBD oils, and high dominant THC oils as well, and capsules. I know capsules are becoming quite popular.
Mm-hmm.
And then flower, most definitely, but a range of flowers from CBD to balanced flowers to THC flowers as well. And and I mean, my personal fave is a spray. I like a balanced spray that works really well for my headaches.
Right.
And because I used to take a lot of medications, and when I was getting a headache or migraine at work, you have to take tablets so you can keep working. But you just can't. They make you so sleepy and so tired. But now I've got a spray. I can have a little spray. I mean, I work from home. I don't work in a law firm or something, but I have a little spray in my mouth, and I can keep going until I have to go to bed at night. It's, but yeah, they're the main. Is that what you meant? The main?
Yeah, definitely. Like I know there's all different stuff coming out. We're now seeing vapes and sublingual wafers and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah,
so I'm just trying.
And creams are quite popular.
Like topical.
Topical. So creams and oils topically as well. And also we're quite big supporters of suppositories. Now there's none on the market at the moment, but we do have a great pharmacy that can compound and make suppositories up for us. And we can pretty much put anything we want in there, from high THC to CBD to CBG, some other minor cannabinoids as well.
Amazing.
And then also pessaries as well for our endometriosis patients. So that's becoming a little bit more popular as well.
Yeah, that's very niche and bespoke. But I think, as the market develops and people are understanding this, or people who understand the North American market, they really realize that there's a whole host of ways that this can benefit people, and a whole host of other things beyond THC and CBD that might be beneficial.
Absolutely. And I know ever since I started nursing forever ago, doctors have always been huge advocates for suppositories, like always. I don't know. It's just huge advocates. I'm so surprised there isn't any out yet.
That's very interesting. Can't say it's something I know much about, to be honest, but
well, as a nurse, you know everything about them, unfortunately.
Yeah, well, in terms of suppositories and maybe other, what kind of indications are you thinking about when you're talking about suppository? Obviously, endo.
So any gut issues, so ulcerative colitis, Crohn's, irritable bowel disease or syndrome, and because you want to get to your endocannabinoid system any way you can. So that's.
Are they, but they probably wouldn't make up the majority of cases that cannabis is prescribed.
No. Yeah, you're right. So the indications that we mainly see, is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
So there's three main ones we usually see. Insomnia is a big one. So sleep issues. And that's our main goal usually at our clinic, is to try and get people better quality sleep, because we tend to find that sleep is the answer to most things. Anxiety and chronic pain. Chronic pain is a big one, and it covers a lot of lots of health issues such as chronic back pain, headaches, migraines, then the endometriosis, Crohn's, ulcerative colitis. They're the three main ones, but we see lots of, ADHD, PTSD, epilepsy. We have a fair few children now with autism, behavioural issues.
Yeah.
The main ones that we tend to treat.
Yeah, very interesting. And what kind of results are these patients getting, and generally speaking?
Yeah, amazing. This is why I love doing the nursing part, because we get to hear all the results. I work for an online telehealth service, so it's only over the phone. So I'm consistently hearing all of the positive results, from pain relief. Pain relief to people telling me that they've had the best sleep they've had in years. To seizure control, going from having seizures every day to now one a week. and reducing their frequencies as well, and also stabilizing debilitating anxiety. We've recently had a patient who had such debilitating anxiety. This patient couldn't leave the house for about 3 years, ended up working a full-time job, but from home, stopped hanging out with friends, was making up excuses. It was so bad, and was sourcing illegal cannabis. And that, also puts, stress and anxiety back on the patient. So finally got the patient on proper medicinal cannabis, and we used a day flower and a night flower and some oils as well. So a combination of products. And I received a phone call last week, and the patient was just saying, I just can't believe how well this is working. I've actually gone out for the whole day with my friends, and I've just applied for a job at a company like outside my house.
Wow.
And I was thinking, and that was only 3 months after starting. So it can make some transformations quite quickly.
Yeah, and that's the type of story we hear time and time again. But I am actually curious to get, it's in the interest of providing a balanced conversation, because you would be, exposed to people that this doesn't work for as well. I'm curious, there must be cases where this just doesn't quite cut the mustard for what people were expecting.
Yeah, and just to add on to that, are there any particular sort of indications where if somebody presents to your clinic that you're kind of thinking already straight off the bat, we've seen limited success in treating this particular condition with medical cannabis? Or just be curious to get your take on that.
Yeah, that's a tricky one. I mean, you don't really know who it doesn't work for unless they give it a try. The most important thing, and I tell this to patients every day, is it's very, very safe, especially because you're microdosing, and the nurses have continuous contact with the patient. So we're always following the patient, and so does the pharmacy. They're giving out the directions. So who it doesn't work for, I would probably more inclined to answer who we wouldn't advise take it. And that's the patients who have allergies, obviously, to cannabis, or to a carrier oil, such as MCT or hemp seed. But then again, we can do isolate powder. So there's always ways around it if people do have allergies. Patients that are in clinical trials, obviously that's going to disrupt the research. And pregnancy as well is a big one. As a health professional, we can't advise patients that are pregnant or trying to fall pregnant to take medical cannabis, even though we know that mothers have been consuming cannabis for many, many years. There's just not enough. It's just very limited research in that area.
Fair enough.
But who it doesn't work for, and who, it is a tricky question. I did recently have an elderly patient who was on high doses of blood thinners, and she lived alone at home. And she called me after about 3 days and said, "Oh, I'm so dizzy." And I just thought, oh God, this is so unsafe. We're an online service. I can't go and visit this lady. And if she had a fall at home, it's unsafe. It wouldn't be responsible as a health professional to continue her taking that medication.
Yeah, that makes sense. And it's interesting, when you think about it like that, you're dealing with the patient on a day-to-day basis. I'm actually really curious, what do nurses have experience with that doctors might not? Like, we always think of the doctor as the primary health caregiver, and they've a lot of experience, and we love doctors. Obviously the work they do is incredible, but sometimes I know in my conversations there's I don't want to say a tension, but there's differing views on what a doctor might be able to provide the patient that maybe a nurse might do something better. Or I'm just curious to get your take on that interaction between a nurse and a patient, and a doctor and a patient.
Yeah, I love that. I love that question. I was having this conversation with my boss the other day about nurses and doctors, and we're quite lucky at our clinic. We all get along really, really well, but there will always be that nurse-doctor relationship. Not always, but most of the time. But nurses have a lot more experience I don't know any nurse that has had just one job. We've had multiple jobs, unless you're obviously just starting out. So we've got lots of experience in lots of different areas. But what nurses mainly do is we educate our patients. We offer them advice, support. We don't just look after them, like I said before, physically, but also emotionally. We're consistently educating them on, and especially in cannabis, obviously, with medication education all the time, all day, every day. That's what we do. But overall, I would put it down to that nurses are very relatable. A lot of nurses are also patients, but we're relatable. We're always willing to share our stories. And so we connect with patients. When you can connect with patients, you build trust and then they open up to you. And that's how we gain experience, I think.
Yeah. I did
Again,
have
that empathy.
Yeah, empathy, yeah.
And someone said to me recently, we're talking about the differences between nurses and doctors, and they said, I've never met an arrogant nurse before. I was thinking,
oh, I like that.
Yeah, that's quite the brush to tarnish doctors with, but I've met some lovely.
We might have just.
A lot of people say to me, what do nurses do? I know I said that before. And, in any areas, surgical doctors will do the operation and then hand them over to the nurses. We literally look after them as soon as they're fresh off the table, all the way till they go home, and the same as cannabis nursing, the doctors they'll do a thorough consultation and then they'll write the scripts, but then we literally make sure the patient has got the scripts. They get them, they're delivered to their door, they have them in front of them. We educate them on how to take them, what they do. I have people ringing me all the time going, I've got an orange bottle and a purple bottle. Which one do I take what?
Always purple before orange, right?
Yeah, purple before orange every time.
Yeah. Which pill do I take? There's also vaporizers as well. I mean, I have everything in my house because people consistently ring me saying, how do I get the top off? Or how do I work this thing? What temperature do I heat it to? Yeah. And so the nurses do a lot of education, which the doctors do some of it, but when they only have a very short consultation, patients forget everything within that 15 to 30 minute consultation.
Yeah.
So nurses do that go that extra mile and they build that rapport with the patient.
What temperature do you heat it to?
Yeah. Do you want to know?
Yeah, of course. The people want to know.
Yeah, it depends on what flower you use. So I find that I shouldn't say that personally. Well, for my headaches, personally, I do like it on a lower temperature, at about 170. But I know that a lot of people do like it a lot hotter than that. Sometimes if it's lower in THC, maybe 190. CBD flowers, you can have maybe about 180 is the norm.
Yeah. So, and what's the hottest you would get to?
I think it's 220, or might be a bit hotter than that. I do have one around here somewhere. It's that's quite hot though. Because obviously the hotter you go, the more you're going to activate that THC component.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess, at the end of the day, this is about people and patients. And I really am curious to know just any stories that stand out along your journey. As you said, you've seen 2,000 patients. Maybe you haven't spoken to every single one because I know there's a few of you in the team, but surely throughout your experience, there could be, one or two stories that just you'll never forget kind of thing. Or I'm very curious if there's any that spring to mind.
All the time. Nurses get asked that question all the time, whichever area you work in, especially in emergency. Oh my God, tell me some stories. People love stories. Yeah, some of the ones that really have jumped out at me is we had a dad of 2 and he was crippled with back pain. He'd had about 12 different surgeries and was just at the end of his tether, and he'd also been to he'd been to his GP who really wasn't helping him source medicinal cannabis, and he called me and he was pretty much crying on the phone. He was on so many opioids and benzos and he just couldn't function. So I said, listen, we'll look after you. I ended up getting him on cannabis flower and some oils. And he called me about 4 weeks later. I always check in with the patients about a week after, make sure that they've got everything. He called me about 4 weeks later saying, "Oh, why have I not been on this sooner?" And he was in his mid 50s. You know, he's outside playing with the kids, you know, and he's like, "This is life changing. I know the pain's there, but I can just get back to my life." So better quality of life is a huge thing. That's another one. Some of the funny stories are the oldies. They get me every time. You know, we have some oldies that are just crippled with pain, you know, osteoarthritis or just arthritis, rheumatoid arthritis, and pottering around their house. I think we've got like a 70-year-old, and he called me and he said, "Oh, actually it was his daughter that called me asking for help." And I said, so I called him and he said, "I just want to walk down the road and jump off the bridge." And I was like, "Gosh, okay, buddy, let's not do that. Let me see if I can help you." And we sent him some oils. And I called him a month later. I always check in a week after, and then 4 weeks later. And he was giggling on the phone and laughing with me. And his wife was in the background saying to me, "What have you done to him? And the garage hasn't looked so clean." And so, you know, just
that's the important part. The garage is clean, not
right.
Jump off the bridge.
Right, exactly. So, and then he said, "Oh, my mates think this is great. And, you know, I'm back at the sports club." And yeah, so really, really rewarding stories. I mean, I've got so many.
I love them. They're fascinating. It's always really engaging to hear other people's experiences. And, you know, it's, as I said, that empathetic part that I didn't know existed in me. It maybe is coming out a little bit when I hear these kind of stuff. So,
oh yeah, okay, it's brushing off, is it?
Yeah, possibly. Maybe not. I could just be faking it for the camera, but.
No, but it's true. Like as soon as you go to the source and actually, you know, manage someone's medical condition, the flow-on effects of, you know, their emotional well-being, their mental health, the way that those factors then influence their behavior, it's really incredible. I mean, such a nice thing to hear an elderly couple go from, you know, "I'm going to jump off the bridge" to "we're having such a wonderful time and he's cleaning the garage." Like it's just insane, that sort of turnaround. But
if nothing else, you might get a few women signing up their husbands to Medicann just to get the garage clean.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And we hear these stories every single day. You know, we hear this is life changing. I must hear that 10 times a week. You know, this is life changing. Why didn't I start this sooner? I've been weaning off my pharmaceuticals, which I've been on for years. I haven't had I've had the best sleep of my entire life. You know, insomnia is crippling as well, not just chronic pain and epilepsy as well. We have some, you know, children that were having seizures, multiple seizures a day, and you know, the mums were ringing me, thanking me because they've finally gone to, you know, they've reduced their frequency of seizures. And also behavioral issues as well. We had a teacher thank the parent that thanked me because their behavior was much better at school, and they were focusing and getting better at school. So it's consistently seeing positive results. And I know you asked me before what, you know, who it doesn't work for and who we're not seeing results with. And they're the people that are probably not taking it properly. So that's why it is really important to have nurses involved in medicinal cannabis. I know that there is a lot of clinics that don't have nurses, but the education is so important. Taking it properly, knowing what you're taking. You know, you need to know what you're taking and how to take it. And if it's not working, why isn't it working? Especially flower, we find people aren't using it properly.
Yeah.
Or they're not taking enough. They're just taking it when they need it. That's some oils. So it's just about education.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I know that the hour, or should I say the time of 4:20 is approaching 4:20. So we're going to let you go because we know you've got a special appointment at that time. And no, I'm not speaking in euphemisms here. But yeah.
That made it sound so much dodgier than it actually is.
Yeah, I know that did. That really did. But 420, Jenny, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on as our inaugural nurse to share a lot of the insights that that we haven't had from all those arrogant doctors that we've had on the show. No, I'm just kidding.
No, don't say that. We're not going to get any new future guests.
We love all the medical, all the healthcare professionals we've had on the show are awesome. But yeah, you are the first nurse, and we're very grateful for your insights.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
All right.
Yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure, Jen. Thank you for coming on. And no doubt we'll be speaking soon, regardless anyway.
Yes,
Yeah.
I'll see you in Melbourne.
Beautiful.
Right. That sounds great. Take care.
Thank you.